Let's welcome back to what is already episode number 26 of the toonTALK podcast brought to you by Magpie 24/7. I am joined today by Kyle. Kyle, how are you doing?
I've been better, I'm not gonna lie, Ian. After yesterday and just what has been a absolute shit show of a season in the league. Um, I think everyone was happy before the game this weekend, Barcelona in the Champions League and everything like that. Everyone excited and just brought straight back down to earth really with a colossal bang. And I've been better, but excited to unwind and take any frustration that I have out on this podcast today.
So am I, mate. So am I. Because on today's episode, we are going to skip over one of the games we've played this week for once, because one of those games was the second leg against Karabakh, which we did win 3-2. So that made it 9-3 on aggregate in the Champions League, which is fantastic for us. I do want to get your reaction to drawing Barcelona in the next round.
I mean, when it first happened, mate, I was really happy about it. I'm like, oh, get in, no camp. Me and Paul trying to get over there, for the second leg, and after yesterday, I'm really not looking forward to playing them because Everton in parts of the game were playing triangles around and showing that possession football. If Everton not doing that to it, God fuck knows what Barcelona are going to do to it.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm excited for the draw. It's big game, Champions League time, and time to run it back with Barcelona. I feel like if we're at our best, we can beat anybody, but it's also Newcastle. It we can beat anybody, but we can also lose to anybody. So it should be exciting, but sadly, it looks like it could be our last couple of games in Europe for a while. So we might as well enjoy it and go out with a bang, or hopefully upset the odds and see how far we can go.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think as long as we don't get an English side that isn't named Spurs, we should, I mean, not necessarily be favorites because Barcelona are still Barcelona, but we definitely stand a good chance, especially if they persist with this high line, which they absolutely will under Hansi Flick. So there are opportunities to be had in this game. I'm still very excited to face Barcelona. It's also excitement because this is the very first time Newcastle United are in the Champions League knockouts, so that is a historical place to be at. Um, Maybe that's a more exciting question for you. How excited are you for a Champions League knockout game under the lights at St. James's
Yeah,
Park?
I'm really looking forward to it. I think it is kind of where we're seasons kind of harnessing on in terms of any success at all. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be good. It's going to be a special night and one I think St James's Park is going to be ready for because I think we're starting to get that little bit of reputation for having a good like one of the good atmospheres in Europe. I feel that we can turn that up to 100
Mhm.
and really show the world what we're made of, and hopefully the players can follow suit and deliver a performance that matches the atmosphere that'll be on the night.
Absolutely. And if we as a fan base make this a night not to forget, and that is visible on television, I think that is also a very big incentive for potential signings to come over in the summer and play in front of such a big and passionate crowd for such a
Yeah.
massive club like we are. So massive nights ahead of us. Unfortunately, that will wrap up the Champions League segment for today, which is really weird. I mean, we're 3 minutes in and the first segment is already gone, but there is not much more to say on the Karabakh game. I presume. I mean, we haven't had any reaction from you on the 9-3. What did you think of the two legs as a whole?
Well, the second game, to be fair, I mean, it was just one of them games where it was like a training session. The second game, I feel like there was a very much a feeling of we're already through, and everything like that, which kind of led to their two goals, a complacency.
Mhm.
Um, but the goals that we scored were scored early, and I think once we scored them couple of goals, it was kind of job done for as far as the Newcastle players were concerned. So comfortable night. We got the job done in Karabakh, which was a great night all round, and I'm looking forward to the next round.
Completely agree.
So it finished Newcastle United 3, Carabag or Carriabag or whatever type of bag for life. I don't really know at this point. they got 2. And yeah, not the game I thought I was coming to see to watch tonight. Newcastle United raced into a 2-goal lead, came out of the blocks absolutely flying, and I thought it would literally be sort of any score, 6, 7, 8. I was getting delirious. I was getting sort of high on optimism, as it were. The game didn't turn out like that from that moment on. Look, the players knew at that time that job was done. Happy days. We're through to the last 16, and they went through the motions. They coasted through it. They protected themselves. They didn't want to pick up daft bookings. They didn't want to pick up injuries. They wanted to preserve themselves ready for much greater and more difficult challenges coming ahead in the likes of Everton and Manchester United. They went through. I don't think Karabakh sort of read the script at this point. Look, to be fair to them, to credit them, they have never given up in this match, no matter how steep the obstacle was. They never stopped trying, running, getting shots away. Ramsdale's had to make a few decent saves. They get back into it. Shocked St James's Park. They actually got a round of applause off St James's Park when they scored. Newcastle United then wake up and say, well, we're going to have to do something about this. A fantastic header from Sven Botman to make it 3-1 at that time. But Karabakh, to their credit once more, they were not to be denied. They were not going to lay down and just take it. They persisted. They got a spot kick. It ends up going in. Obviously, after the initial save, makes it 3-2. Again, they had other opportunities. Credit to them at the end of the day. Look, if somebody had offered you last 16 Champions League at the beginning of the season, you'd have snapped the hand off for definite. That's what we've got. Looking forward to the draw on Friday, which will obviously bring to you on Magpie 24/7. Will it be Barcelona? Will it be Chelsea? Both, two very, very interesting picks, if you will. Can we make it go? Can we go even further in the competition? Well, we're going to have to play a lot better. We all know that. We will have to play a lot better. But look, the players got the job done. Was the starting lineup what I expected? Probably not. I thought we'd see one or two maybe of the youngsters. Do I think that some of the fringe players had great games? Have they enhanced their claims for, minutes in future matches? Perhaps not. I think Will Asula fluffed his lines. I think Jacob Murphy fluffed his lines, which is disappointing. It really, really is. You want players to take opportunities. You want competition for places. You want pressure from the fringe players on the first team players. Of course you do. But look, lots of substitutions in that game. Lots of strange substitutions. Players playing slightly out of position. We didn't get to see Sean Neve. That was perhaps a little bit of a disappointment over the 90 minutes today. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of him. I was encouraged on what I saw in obviously the previous game. We get through. We're okay. We're ready to go again this weekend at Everton. We'll have to play a damn sight better to get the victory this weekend than what we've done today. But we'll take that one on the chin. Happy enough overall to have won 9-3 is it on aggregate? It is the Cavalier sort of swashbuckling days of old, isn't it? Sort of revisited, to be honest. But yes, a strange game, a sort of funny atmosphere at St James's Park, but it very much is job done, and I'm sure, haven't heard Eddie out yet, but I'm sure that he'll be more than happy with the result at the end. Not champagne stuff, maybe a bit more like cordial or something like that. Definitely not champagne football tonight, but it was certainly effective. You've got to give them respect at the end of the day. They are the champions of the country, that they're in Azerbaijan. They're used to winning. They've got players who are confident and did a job. Quick, tricky, get shots away. Credit to them. but it's Newcastle United that were through to the next round, to the last 16 of the Champions League. Dare we to dream a little bit furthermore? Who knows? Anyway, I'll leave it there. Pass you back over to Ian, and in the meantime, take care, keep it two.
All right, in that case, we should move on to a bit more of a depressing topic, which is our result yesterday against Everton. So, for anyone who didn't see the game, we lost 3-2 to Everton at St. James's Park, a result which, in and of itself, is already pretty unacceptable because we pride ourselves on our home form, and this is now 3 home defeats in a row. So, that's a real big worry for us. The most worrying thing about this game for me is we claw back to draw level 2 times, and both occasions we concede within the first minute after that goal. I think the first one is within 2 minutes, but the second one is definitely within a minute. So
Yes.
twice we give away the equalizer immediately after working so hard to get that. That's just a loss of concentration, isn't it?
It seems to be a problem throughout the season, though. Like it's a severe mentality issue. I think we've conceded the third most amount of goals at home this season, and that's pretty unacceptable given how strong we're meant to be at St James's Park. And in this season, it just hasn't been a fortress at all, has it? I mean, teams have came here, they've nearly got results. Even games where we looked like we're gonna, like where we've went on to win the game, we've been for most of them games this season pretty bang average.
Hmm.
Um, where had moments of brilliance to drag us through games and yeah, I think the way we've played at home this season has been absolutely terrible, to be honest. And yesterday kind of puts that all together. Like everything kind of summed up in yesterday's game. And to be fair, in the last three where Villa wouldn't lay a glove on. Brentford, even though they weren't particularly great, still managed to put three past win. Everton having, what, three or four shots on target and scoring 3 goals. It's just, we can't seem to get a foothold in any game. And like, you see the comments after the match from Eddie Howe saying we're pretty much dominant. And it's just like, were you watching a different game? Like,
Hmm.
what's going on? Like, in terms of the football club at the minute and the way we're playing at home, it's just so frustrating, and it's a massive test for those at the top, those at management, and the players as well. I think from top to bottom there is a serious mentality issue, and getting a goal against Everton when they're a hard team to score against, and you just make stupid fucking mistakes like the Nick Pope one yesterday. Like I'm sick of this goalkeeper, you know. I really am. Like he's fucking shit. He really is. Like honestly, he's awful. He hasn't been the same since he dislocated his shoulder.
I
And
agree.
it's not just on Nick Pope, it's on the recruitment as well, because Nick Pope looks to his right side and you've got a 35-year-old Kieran Trippier playing 3 games a week, and he's just not up to the standard anymore, and that's okay because he's 35. Like the recruitment aren't recognising issues on the field and sorting them out before they become massive issues. Like Nick Pope's made up what of 10 mistakes in goal this season, and he's not even thought about of being dropped. There was massive calls Brentford away for Nick Pope to be dropped, and Nick Pope got injured, so Eddie Howe didn't have to make that decision. And now we're all the way in near March, well, 1st of March now, and there's massive calls again for Nick Pope to be dropped. As bad as this season's been, Nick Pope's been consistently one of our worst players by a street. He's constantly making errors. His distribution's absolutely like terrible. Like our best goalkeeper was sent to Burnley at the start of the season for free.
Completely agree.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like Nick Pope is not a good goalkeeper anymore. Like he's not, I don't even think he's championship level. Like
Hmm.
the saves he's making and or the saves he isn't making, the mistakes he's making. Like the first leg against Karabakh, it's straight at him. The goal against Everton yesterday, it's straight at him. And his reaction to it's just that of someone who's in his 70s, like crawling over to the ball, and it's pure embarrassment, and it's not just the individual player because one, Eddie won't drop these players, and two, the recruitment haven't found a solution to these players when we clearly needed them. Like we should have pulled the trigger on Trafford in the summer last season when we're haggling over £3-4 million. Like you just get that deal done, and then we don't have that problem. And then at right back, we're linked with a lad out of Bologna, a right back, young right back, English, playing his trade in Italy, doing well. Go and get him. 15, 20 million. You've identified the issue. Go and sort the problem out. And then further up the field, we've got a clear striking crisis in the league where our right wingers aren't performing. Ryan, who was available at Vasco da Gama, he was available, wanted to come to Newcastle. His agent signed off for Newcastle. We didn't want him. Eddie Howe shut it down. Goes to Bournemouth. He's already contributed more in goals and assists than Elanga has all season. And
Yeah.
until yesterday, he was matching Jacob Murphy, and they've had half a season on him. And
Mm.
there's two wingers right there, and it's just a fundamental issue with not just the players, because I don't want to just sit here and hammer individual players. As much as I really dislike Nick Pope at the moment, there is a fundamental issue with there being a problem and the club just being like, I can wait till the summer, we'll spend then. When we're trying to get into European football with players that just aren't up to the standard. Nick Pope's not good enough. Trippier's not good enough. We're starting to see problems with Dan Burn making mistakes in defence.
Mhm.
You look further forward and like the midfield just doesn't seem to work. We just don't seem to have any creativity going forward. We don't have any flair, people that can open up the game. Like how many times yesterday did we get the ball out of the wing and we just looked so devoid of ideas. Like we don't have any flair, someone who can come on and be like, right, that's gonna change the game. We don't have any of that, and it's just like it's so depressing. Like because I think from top to bottom the club has let itself down in so many areas, and like you've got David Hopkinson saying at the end of January there, oh it was a brilliant January window. We didn't bring any fucker in, like, and we had problems all across the field, and they're not being addressed. And then the manager is letting players down by playing Nick Woltemade in fucking midfield. He's playing Anthony Gordon a winger up front. He's playing Joe Linton a centre midfielder out on the left. Like what's going on? It's genuinely a massive concern, and we are where we are in the league, and we deserve to be there. It's
Mhm.
not a it's not a bad. It's a case of we are there because we deserve to be, and if it weren't for the bits of individual brilliance from Bruno Guimaraes in the home games early on the season, and the early flurry of goals from Nick Woltemade, we'd be in a relegation battle, Ian, and that's how bad we've looked this season. And you look at recruitment, you look at the management, you look at the players, fundamentally across the board, it's all been a shocking season. And yes, we're in the Champions League knockout phases and stuff like that, but I feel like a team that's spent what we have and a team that's played the opposition that we have, we should be. And that's not it's still an amazing achievement, it is, but when you consider the investment that's went into that playing squad compared to the teams we've played against, I feel like that should be there. I mean, Tottenham are there as well, and Tottenham are somehow far worse than what we are this season, and it's fundamentally across the board just isn't good enough. And I feel like if there's certain people in that club, the likes of Eddie Howe and the likes of um is it Ross Wilson again?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, Ross Wilson. If and David Hopkinson, if these people in the club aren't ruthless, then we're not gonna go anywhere. We're just gonna be like, oh, non-European season, challenge for the top seven. European season, be mid-table cannon fodder because we kind of compete on both levels. And
Mhm.
you see that in interviews yesterday, from Jacob Murphy, from Eddie Howe, saying like, "Oh, we're struggling with the amount of games," and like we've had a season of this a couple of years ago where the same things were happening, and we haven't put anything in place to try and compete on both fronts. Like Eddie Howe saying lack of lack of time on the training ground and stuff like that. But teams that are consistently at the top have to deal with that as well, and they find a way. And I get PSR's more friendly to them and stuff like that, but we've brought players in. I feel like barring fullback, we've got two players in every position, and we just don't. We're not like we're getting worse. We're not getting any better. The ceiling of the squad did go up at the start of the season with the players that were brought in, but the players that they've brought in are so not fitted to this system. Like I still don't know what Wissa brings to the team. Alanga's just not working out. Jacob Ramsey's finding his feet slowly, but sums up his season yesterday when he scores and then he goes off sick at half time. It kind of
Mhm.
sums his up, bless him. Um, and then you've got Malik Chow who is working out quite well, but like Walter Mara who had a great start to the season and then got dropped for Whistle, lost his confidence, and then gets put in the midfield. Like it's just a massive fuck up on the recruitment side, and then a manager that is failing a lot of these players this season. And I know
Mhm.
Eddie has a strong reputation for um building up players and making them better, but that's something he hasn't done this season at all.
All right, there's a lot to unpack there. A lot I definitely agree with. For starters, I do think Pope should be dropped as well. He has been a very big liability for us this season. Cost us. I mean, he could have cost us more points than he eventually has cost us, but still, you want a goalkeeper you can rely on, and especially when your goalkeeper I've always thought Nick Pope has two outstanding traits and then two traits where he's outstandingly lacking in, which is a bit weird of a weird situation for a goalkeeper. But when those two traits, which he is outstanding in, i.e., shot stopping and um, co coming to claim a cross inside of his area, I think he is very or used to be very commanding of his box. But those two things have or dropped very fast this season and dropped very harshly. So that leaves you with a goalkeeper who is losing his strongest attributes and not gaining any other attributes. So I think moving on is the only logical option from there. I would be okay, I think, with him being second string goalie, although that is something we will get onto a bit later in this episode. But that's mostly because I would hate us to pay the 20 million for Ramsdale or have to look for two goalkeepers in the same summer. That would be a bit of a difficult case. So I would keep him around as a second string goalkeeper, but not much more than that. The recruitment side, I agree we shut the bed in January. We I think the best point you make is about us being reactive instead of proactive. I've been calling for us to be proactive for months, and I hope we're doing that now for the summer, but it always feels like Newcastle are running one transfer window behind on the other clubs around them, which is a really frustrating place for us to be. The players we brought in this summer, I mean, you listed them up. The thing I have with that is I usually prefer to give signings at least 12 months to bed in. With a signing like Wissa or Elanga, that's a little bit more difficult because they already have Premier League experience, so you can't really use the excuse that they are acclimatizing to a new league. But it is a new team, it is a new area for them to live in, it is new demands for them in a new system. So I always think give players time, give players at least 12 months to settle in, and if they've gotten underway in the second season, that's the time we can start to judge them. Having said that, though, there are some players in there where I struggle to see much more upside. Elanga being one, I think he's just too similar of a profile to all of our other wingers to ever really make a big difference in this team. I think Voltemade will come good. I genuinely believe that because I do think he is a quality player, and it yes, he's playing in midfield now, but the biggest difference with him playing in midfield is actually defensively, because in possession, he's taking up pretty much the same areas as he was before, because he was always dropping deep. But because he was dropping so deep, that left us with literally nobody in the box. So now that Gordon is playing in front of him, we actually have a striker. Gordon just isn't a natural striker, and I really don't like him in that role. I said it when he scored 4 goals in the Champions League as well, so this isn't a reactionary thing. I really don't like him there. I thought he lacked any sort of real dangerous presence where some strikers just have that, where if the ball gets anywhere near them, they force defenders into making
Yeah.
decisions, which makes them make mistakes. Gordon doesn't have that, in my opinion. And the other signings, yeah, Ramsdale, I've said it. I hope we don't make that one permanent. Jacob Ramsey, completely agree. Starting to slowly find his feet in midfield. So I hope we give him some more minutes in the future as well to get his performance levels a bit higher up. And Visa was a signing where I was not worried about him when we signed him. But if you look at it now, we paid £50 million for a nearly 30-year-old striker who's missed the first half of the season in which we've signed him. And the reason we did sign him was so that Woltemade would get time to bed into a new league, and we would have a guarantee of goals to replace the output which we were going to lose from Isaac. Now, we've lost the Isaac output and we've not replaced that output at all. We don't have a striker that can convert small chances into a goal out of nothing, so to speak. So that is a really, really massive worry for us. On Hopkinson and Eddie Howe, yes, January was a failure. I believe especially when you think about the fact that we sold or let go of Lascelles, the squad just got weaker, which for a team that was already struggling so much defensively is a very, very weird decision to make for the board. So that is again being reactive. I think Hopkinson said this was a good window because of the preparations they laid and the groundwork they laid for future windows. But it's all well and good thinking about the future of Newcastle, and I'm guilty of this as well. I've often tried to decompress my feelings after a result by thinking about how the club will be moving forward within the next 5 years. And I am still excited about that because I think bringing in David Hopkinson has been a masterstroke by the club. I genuinely believe that because a very long story short, which we have talked about this on this podcast before, go back 2 episodes to listen to the PSR SCR rule change, which I've talked about with Paul. Basically, the financial rules are going to go through a little bit of an Americanization. And if there's one person who knows how to operate within Americanized sporting rules, it is David Hopkinson, because he was a very important figure at, I think it's Madison Square Garden Sports in the USA. He also was an important figure for Real Madrid behind the scenes. So he knows how to operate within certain rules that are that he has to take into account. So that's a really exciting part of it for me. But we also have to think about the now. And the now is really worrying because players think about the now. Players think about the last 10 games they've seen Newcastle United play when they are deciding to join Newcastle or not. So this will have a massive impact on our summer plans. I think it's very good that we are going to talk about our summer plans in the next part of this video, because games like this make that all the more interesting. Maybe we should talk about the lineup in specific, because you said it as well. Eddie Howe is playing a lot of players out of position. Anthony Gordon, completely agree with you. Joe Linton, completely agree with you. Don't like him out on that wing. Brilliant assist for him on the Jacob Murphy goal, but he does not offer any goal threat himself from the left-hand side, which is worrying for someone who used to be a striker. All right.
So,
but let's go over the lineup very quickly. First of all, let's listen to Paul's thoughts on that particular lineup.
St James's Park at the moment, and just caught eyes and sight on the lineup, and it looks like, well, definitely a few changes. Looks like Ramsey in from the left-hand side, Gordon leading the line, Woltemade back to number 10, and I hope he gets the goal today just to shut some uneducated pork up, to be honest. Apart from that, Chow comes back into the defence. The defence looks decent. I think that should be able to do a job today. Hall on one side. Trippier goes yet again. Chow and Byrne. Pope in goal.
Obviously, after Ramsdale got to run out midweek, so we have been able to rest a few. Hall as well, obviously, he got a break, didn't he, for a percentage of the game in midweek. And then in the midfield, like I said, they could go a couple of different ways on this one, but I would expect that Ramsey is in on the left, and then it will be Tonali, Joe Linton, Messi in front of them. Up top leading the line will be Gordon. And I know I've just said I'd like Woltemade to get a goal just to shut some of the uneducated, uninformed simpletons out there up. But yeah, Gordon getting a couple of goals against Everton, always. It goes without saying that I'd like to see that. And yeah, just to make the journey back down to Merseyside quite miserable for Everton. So fingers crossed, feeling quite confident beforehand. We need to start quickly, start strongly, start on the front foot, get the first goal, put the cat amongst the pigeons. These are, unexpectedly perhaps so, fighting for European qualification alongside us. So the battle, so the charge for us towards some sort of European football next season definitely needs to get a motor on today. So it's a massive game at St James's Park. Want to expect us to win. Hope we'll win. I've gone 2-1 for the prediction for analysis. I want to stick with that one. 2-1 to Newcastle. Gordon and Woltemade to score the goals. Come on, how are the lads?
And then we can discuss it ourselves with Pope, Hall, Byrne, Chow, and Trippier in the back line. I think that was pretty much the expected back line given our fitness issues.
Yeah.
Tonali and
Right,
James
yeah.
Ramsey in the double pivot.
Yeah.
And Joelinton, Woltemade, Elanga, and Gordon in attack. What did you make of that starting 11?
It just comes to the players being in the wrong positions for me. It just doesn't seem to work at all. Like you mentioned with Joe Linton playing out on that left side, it felt like Everton had him covered. He lost the ball quite a lot. And then when he lost the ball, he would go to kicking people, which obviously with Joe Linton is something that you get, and I like that passion side of him. But like he's just like he just didn't execute anything of sort for most of the game. Like obviously he had a great assist, which initially when I was standing behind him, I thought he'd overhit the cross, but he found Jacob Murphy and it goes in. But yeah, I think the team top to bottom is what it is at the minute, and to be honest, I was half expecting Hall to go out on the right and Burn to play left back. I was kind of half expecting that with like the whole like just play them in different positions for the crack. And it's just like yeah, it's just a bit of a crazy team. Like um I noticed Botman was dropped from the week. I don't know if that's because of like you want to slowly bring him back in with his back injury and stuff like that. But I feel like if he was fully fit, he probably should have started.
He was on the bench,
Um,
but he just didn't come on.
yeah. So I'll put that down to he's just coming back from injury. But midfield, I was quite happy with, given that we don't have Bruno.
Yeah.
So Jacob Ramsey and Tonali, I feel like are a really good pairing together, and you've seen that in the first half. Um, and then Alanga, a big chance for him, but like you say, I feel like there is a player there. I just don't feel like it's in our system. He reminds us a lot of when Eddie Howe first took over, the system was so far ahead of what St Maximin could bring, and Maximin looked very limited and very
Mm-hmm.
tactically out of his depth. And I feel like Alanga's very similar in that aspect. Like you're gonna get flair, you can get someone who can take on a man and stuff like that. But the thing is, when Alanga does take on a man and get a cross into the box, he does have a good cross in him. So there's that quality there. But and obviously, yeah,
On
no,
Elanga's
go on.
crossing, I think the technique from his crossing is good, but one thing that is frustrating the shit out of me recently, every single time he gets the ball in a crossing area, his head goes down and he crosses before his head goes up. So he has no idea who he's crossing it to, pretty much 100% of the time.
Yeah, it is. It's frustrating. I just feel I don't feel like we like cover crossing in training. I feel like the ball goes into the box a hell of a lot, and when it does, it just doesn't find where it needs to go most of the
Hmm.
time. And it's really frustrating because where attack is built on getting the ball out wide and getting the ball into the box, and I just don't feel it will cross enough. Um, which is really frustrating, especially when
Hmm.
we get to the byline and we just pass it between each other and then it goes back. And it's how Everton got a good couple of the chances yesterday. Beto hit the bar because we're messing around on the wings. We'll play it back to Chow. Chow makes an error, and then it leads to a one-on-one chance. And that's happened a good number of times this season where we just don't look like we have an idea. And would it? I think with the crossing, it's probably a case of not having a focal point as well up top. But you have runners going into the box and it just seems so ineffective. And if we're not crossing the ball into the box, we're not doing anything, but the crosses into the box are very limited. So like I know our set piece coaches had a lot of stick this season, and rightly so in a couple of instances, but in terms of set pieces we're third for goals.
Hmm.
And like from set pieces we've managed to consistently score goals, but from an open play perspective, we haven't. Like if you look at penalties and you look at set piece goals that we've managed to score, I don't know this for certain, but it probably outweighs the amount we've scored in open play this season.
It wouldn't
If
definitely
not,
wouldn't surprise me.
if not, it's very close.
Hmm.
Like I think we've got 13 or 13 from set pieces, and then we've had like 6 or 7 penalties this season, so that'd be like 20 goals from those areas. And then I'm not sure about open play in the league.
Yeah, we've scored 40 goals this season in the Premier League.
So yeah, like I say, it's very close. Like you
Yep.
look at goals from open play and goals from either set pieces and penalties, it's really close, Ian. And it's just like for a team that wants to hit the top of the league, and be fighting for European contention every season, we haven't been on it this season at all.
Mm.
We've been really poor. And I think the only bit of consistency we managed to see early doors this season was Walter up front, and he was feeding off scraps at the time, but we haven't managed to replace that level of goals, and we seem to be really struggling. And like it's crazy, and it sums up Newcastle's season. Like we've scored more goals than anybody else in Europe with 26, 27 goals, and
Hmm.
then in the Premier League in open play, we're probably down the bottom end of the league, and it's
It
so
does surprise me
frustrating.
how many teams have scored less goals than we have, to be fair.
Yeah, it's absolutely
It's a tight
crazy
league,
when.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a tight league when it comes to scorelines as well, because yesterday we had a lot of big results. Brentford won 4-3 away at Burnley, Liverpool beating West Ham 5-2. But other than that, of I mean, having a quick look at this, Fulham, Sunderland, Palace, Brighton, Leeds, basically every single team below the top 10, in the bottom half, has less goals than we have. So we are the top scoring team in the bottom half, which tells you our attack is better than we than what we are showing right now. And our team is also better than the league position we are in. But as you said before, we absolutely do deserve to be in this specific league position.
Yeah, and it comes down to mistakes from players and stuff like that as well. Yesterday being a key example of that for Everton's equaliser. No, sorry, for them to go 2-1 up, Pope's mistake, and then for the third one, would just get back into the game 2-2. Happy days. We could go on to win it, but Everton just don't give us a chance because Anthony Gordon decides to run around in his own half, and
Mhm.
it's yeah, very frustrating as we lose the ball, and then it literally goes in because Barry slides in and it kind of hits him on the back, and just slides into the net, and it just kind of sums up where the season's at. We just kind of seem to get a break going forward, and we'll go into another rough period of games. And we need to get results out of these games. Like you look at Man United on Wednesday, they're a good side at the minute, and we
Absolutely.
need to beat them. and then you've got Chelsea away in the league, a place we are terrible at going to, and you're looking at them games probably thinking we need 4 points at least to stay with the running pack, and
Hmm.
somehow, as bad as we've been, we are within 3 points of ninth. We could still finish
Yeah.
in the top half, and we have been absolutely dreadful. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely, and I
like
think eighth is enough for. I mean, maybe this is a good or a very good quick point to make because do see a lot of people often struggle with pinpointing this. But what places actually get European football this season in the Premier League? So 1 to 5th is guaranteed to be Champions League. England will get that fifth spot. That there is, I mean, unless every single English team goes out in the next round, and even still, then I think we probably get it. So 1 to 5th is Champions League. 6th and 7th are Europa League, and 8th is Conference League. Now the only way that changes is if um, City and Arsenal play the Carabao Cup final, so that can be neglected. If a team that hasn't qualified for Europe through the league wins the FA Cup, then one of those two Europa League spots go to that team. The other Europa League spot goes to 6th, and Conference League is for 7th. For example, we had this happen to us 2 years ago when we actually finished 7th, which was the Conference League spot then. But Man United won the Europa League, won the FA Cup, but they finished below us. So they got the Europa League ticket. Chelsea, who finished one place above us and should have gotten Europa League, got demoted to the Conference League, and we dropped out of Europe altogether. So that is how the European tickets will be distributed this season. I think that's pretty important to note for the people at home.
yeah, for sure. And like obviously that eighth spot is where we want to be aiming for, but with the way we're playing at the moment, I just don't see it.
Mhm.
And dropping out of Europe does have its pros, like obviously not playing as much, but I don't want we to be this team that loops between Europe, non-Europe, Europe, non-Europe, and it just
Agree.
and we're having the same problems in 2 years' time, having European football and not being able to contend with it. We need to be playing. If we follow David Hopkinson's words of being one of the best teams in the world by 2030, you've got to be in Europe. You cannot not be if you want to be looking for that kind of being in that type of conversation. So yeah, I feel like if the club don't meet expectations of European football of any kind this season, then I think you've got to kind of look at it and be ruthless. Whether that be Eddie Howe be ruthless with his players and sell a couple of his so-called favourites like your Popes, and people like that, as we'll delve into with the transfer stuff in the next part.
Hmm.
Um, or if he isn't ruthless and doesn't systematically change a couple of things within his style, which has clearly been stifled and has clearly got a little bit stale. If he's not ruthless, then I think the club need to be. And obviously, we don't want that. We don't want Eddie Howe gone. But like, if he doesn't make those changes, Ian, the club have to.
Hmm.
Like, otherwise, we're just going to be in this cycle of struggling Europe, and I just if that doesn't sound to me like a club that wants to progress. It's
Completely
just a
agree.
club that's staying in the same kind of space for 2 seasons on loop. And I want Wood to progress as a club. I don't
Hmm.
want Wood to just live in a cycle of like Europe, non-Europe and stuff because it's mental. It's just something you kind of it's not sustainable for a start. So
Hmm.
hopefully the club take the actions that they need to and go from there. Obviously, like Eddie deserves every chance, but I feel like if we fail to get Europe, then questions do need to be asked for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, that is all we've got to say on Newcastle Everton and on Newcastle's Premier League form in general. A lot of big games coming up, as you said, against Manchester United and Chelsea, in which we are going to have to get results. We are going to listen to Paul's post-game reaction, and meanwhile, Kyle and I are taking a little break. Afterwards, we're coming back and discussing
Half
what
time,
we think
and
our summer
another
business
yet
should
another
look
horror
like,
show,
again for
yet
Newcastle
another
United.
pub calamity. Oh my word! Yeah, Newcastle United have won. Everton 2. Fuck me. My optimism before the game is, yeah, very quickly disappeared. South. What do you reckon, Carl?
Well, I mean, before the game, we knew it was a big game, and we go 1-0 down, probably rightfully so, but we responded really well. Got back in the game for Ramsey, who looks like the only one who seems to want to go forward in the entire team, which is, it's not a plus, but you've got someone going forward, and he gets the goal, and deservedly so. When we get back into the game, it looks like we've got the crowd behind with everything like that, and then shot straight at Pope. Let her play football on a Monday night, mate. I'm a goalkeeper, and like, I shouldn't be sitting here thinking I would have done better than Nick Pope in a certain situation. Yet here I am. Like, how many? Like, it's the worst Pope mistake we've seen this season, and he's got a catalogue of them. Like, we've got a low light of Nick Pope Howler show of mistakes that he's made this season. I don't care if Ramsdale has his flaws. He's not making mistakes that bad. And for me, Ramsdale has to be the number one between now and the end of the season, because I don't want to see Nick Pope between the sticks again. He had a bad run of games before he got injured, which gave Howe an easy choice to make to pick the other
Marseille one, do you remember?
Yeah. He got injured at the right time, so Howe didn't have to make a decision. Now he has to make a decision. This isn't just a one thing that's led to this. It's a number of things throughout the entire season. Pope should not be at Newcastle United. He's not good enough. He's too inconsistent. He makes too many mistakes, and he's cost him with games, Paul. It's fucking multiple points this season, and like Ian, I'll speak to you tomorrow on the podcast, but my raw reaction is Nick Pope is fucking shit, and we can't have him in goal anymore because we keep playing. It's going to continue to cost 1 point as a season.
Again, the Liverpool game, but the thing is, mate,
sick of him, mate. I really am.
The first goal, right, was bad enough to me. He stood there like an absolute and utter statue, right? I couldn't say worse. But it's like, I know how to cover up the fact that first goal, what I was a bit shocking on. I'll be even fucking worse for the second goal. Unbelievable. Like you say, mistake after mistake. We've had ones against, was it Liverpool? Marseille.
Went straight at him and he fucking lets it through him.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a new way, match.
This goalkeeper is not good enough. He had a good couple of seasons a few years ago, but he should have been sold at the start of this season, and we're paying for not selling him at the right time, and now we're stuck with him till the end of the season.
How much did we get for Dubravka?
I don't think we've got anything for him, and I'd take Dubravka all day over Pope. I'd take John Ruddy, I'd take Gillespie, because I honestly think all of them would make less mistakes than Nick Pope.
Yeah,
absolutely shocking.
Not the only one who's had a bit of a shocker in the first half, it must be said, but Nick Pope was certainly the cherry on top of the cake. Needs much better in the second half, and hopefully Justin Lockwood, the Barnsley fan who's doing the half-time thing at the moment, fucks off and doesn't come back. You can go with Pope for me at the moment. Absolutely nutty gutted. But we've got 45 ahead of us to be able to try and turn it around, but some big words need to be said at half-time. Newcastle United 1, Everton 2.
So, Newcastle 2, Everton 3. Where the fuck did that come from? Or, funny I should say that though, because I feel like I've seen that performance time and time again this campaign. Pope, I honestly, I don't want to see him play again. You know, you can say 3 errors in this game alone. Add that into your Marseilles, your Liverpools. So, time and time again, he's got a rick in him. He drops one in. If he gets to defend, he doesn't get up. He's slow to react. He's got the intellectual capacity of a corned beef pasty. I just can't. If you're serious about getting into any sort of European competition, then at home you don't lose 3 in a row, and you certainly don't lose to that Everton side. Honestly, we've barely laid a glove on them. How we've scored 2 goals is probably a miracle in itself. Sideways, pass ball FC, passed it across the back, slow, tired, predictable. Ball's getting clipped in, no pace, no imagination, no creativity, no plan B, no good set pieces, pathetic corners, not working the opposition goalkeeper enough, and we got out of that game what we deserved, fuck all. Loyalty is to be admired, but the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing time and time again and expecting a different outcome. there's players in that team who Eddie stayed hugely loyal to, who've been great servants of the club. I'm not saying that they haven't. However, the time comes for everyone, and you just can't keep pacing against the wind and expecting something to change. So there's got, I was going to say there's going to have to use some harsh words. There's been harsh words spoke after Brentford, and yet we get served up a copy and paste performance. It's good for the fans. Full house again. It's cold. It's pissing down, and they put on that sort of performance. It's all fur coat, no knickers type job for me, and it's not good enough. Man United will be licking their lips at the opportunity to come here on Wednesday and to stick the knife in. The Scousers were loving it, but it's just so annoying that we've seen this game so many times and yet we're still making the same fundamental basic problems. It's like we just never learn. But yeah, Eddie's been loyal to a lot of these players for a long time, and for some of them the time is up. The time is up. It's time. We're not going to get into Europe next season. It's the time that we have to reinvent. There'll be a lot of players going. There needs to be a lot of players coming in. Some popular players of the past need to go. Some great previous servants of the club need to go. And new players need to come in. Leaders need to come in. We've got square pegs and round holes, which is never a good sign. You've got Wisser, who looks uninterested, unfit, unmotivated. He doesn't fit. Alanga, one assist, and we're into March tomorrow. It's tragic, it's painful, it hurts. This season now is just going to be a slowly limp to the finish. And if Everton can do that to us and play balls around us and have the majority of the play, the majority of the possession, the majority, in our defensive third, then what's Barcelona going to do if we turn up like this? Fucking hell, that could be X-rated if we put another one of those performances in. Although it does seem to me that we seem to save our best performances for the Champions League. And that tells you it's a bit of a bad mentality. When they can pick and choose when to put a performance in, pick and choose when to put a fight in. Gordon, not even at the races today. And there was times when he was running and he just stopped running and thought, oh, fuck it. Show a little bit of effort. Show a little bit of guts. I'm not saying that everybody didn't put the guts in. I thought there was some bad performances. Joe Linton as well. Little bits towards the end, and for the second goal, yes, but for large spells, frustrating. But like I say, he wasn't alone. We were all over the place at the back. The midfield didn't work, and they got runners behind our midfield running onto our defence all the time. But it's going to be difficult if you keep giving an opposition team gifts, and we did that time and time and time again. 3 gifts, 3 goals. Nick Pope, what are you thinking? After the Marseille game, Eddie Howe got out of making a decision over Nick Pope because he got injured and he brought Ramsdale in. This time he has to make a decision about Nick Pope based upon his form. I might like the bloke. I'm not saying that he's a bad lad, but you've got to make a decision on the football that you've seen, and there must be at least 10 errors leading to goals this season alone, and that is horrific. Absolutely horrific. You can't defend it. You've got to take a decision on it. You've got to be bold on it. And unfortunately, if you don't do your job well enough, you get into trouble. And that is what needs to happen in this instance. He wasn't alone, but he was a major contributing factor to today's pathetic, inept performance. I'm off now to go and pick the missus up for the Metro Centre to see what the damage is there. Goodness me, what a day. What an afternoon. This one stings a lot. Newcastle United 2, Everton 3.
And here we are for the second part of today's episode, and in my opinion, the most exciting part because we are going to go over what we believe Newcastle United's summer should look like. Now, Kyle, I suggest we go over this position by position and let's hear about, first of all, the players we already have in that position, if you have any interest in letting them go, and if you have a target for us to bring in. So, shall we start at the back? Because I think there's going to be some agreement there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've
All
got to
right.
start with the position, and for me, I would have a clear out in this position, to be honest. And like it's yeah, Pope has got to go. Like he'd be the first out the door for me. Absolutely useless. But on top of that, Gillespie, Ruddy, both follow him out the door. I just don't know what they bring. Ramsdale as well. I wouldn't invoke that side of the his contract for 20 million. Uh, although I'll probably play him from now at the end of the season to see if he can change that. But that's
Mhm.
only because Pope is like we might as well have 10 players on the field. Like it's just it's really bad. So in goal for them, and then next season for me would look like a new goalkeeper, Vlachodimos coming back from Sevilla, as he's been really good and being number two, and then Max Thompson being your number three goalkeeper.
Mhm.
And then you have a youngster, you have a experienced second choice, and then for new number one would be just a brand new goalkeeper entirely.
And do you have any suggestions for that brand new goalkeeper?
So yeah, I've got three. So
Okay.
for me, the number one would probably be James Trafford on the basis of what I've seen in the semi-finals of the
Mm.
Carabao Cup was particularly impressive. How he commanded his area, some of the saves that he made, and he's Premier League proven, which I know the club prefer. Although last summer was probably not the best example of that. But I think James Trafford is probably one that could go and get. The other two are abroad, and with them not having Premier League experience, it is a little bit of a strange one. But if you want to take the risk, then it's there. The first one being Conan Secchi from Atalanta.
Oh
He's
yeah,
been really.
Karaseci, yeah.
I know a lot of people have been when they were looking at the game on Tuesday, seeing Cobble make a lot of mistakes for Borussia Dortmund and
Hmm.
being like, "Oh well, we don't want him then." You want to be looking at the other side of the field because Carnegie is a fantastic goalkeeper and has regularly been Atalanta's main guy in goal for like the
Hmm.
past couple of years, and he's been brilliant in that position, and he's only getting better as well. So there's him, and then the third one is one that we spoke about in January, Ian. Miles Shavar, is that the right one?
From Roma?
Um, from Roma, yeah.
Miles Villar, yeah.
Yeah, Milis Villa, correct, Ian. But yeah, I like the look of this lad as well. Consistent in Europe, statistically really
Hmm.
strong, and outperformed all of our goalkeepers quite significantly. And I feel like the one thing that was said about Pope and Ramsdale is if you merge the best qualities together, you get a hell of a goalkeeper. Well, with this lad from Roma, I feel like you get that. So it would be one of the three for me. I feel like the cheapest would probably be Trafford. Um, you're probably looking at what Man City paid for him last year, which is about 27 to 30 million. And then with the other two, I think you're looking between 30 and 50 for them two goalkeepers. Another one was Sporting Lisbon's goalkeeper. No, sorry, Porto's goalkeeper, Diogo Costa,
Hmm.
being a potential fourth, but I preferred the other three based on I know a little bit more about them than I do Diogo Costa. So yeah, one of them three would be happy for me, but
Hmm.
based on Premier League experience and stuff, I'd lean towards Trafford.
Yeah. Before we make a final decision on that, what total budget have you spent this summer? Maybe we need to agree on that before we actually pick the players.
Ooh, I didn't go into that because with the players
Mm.
I've got going out, I feel like that would fetch about 60, 70 million.
Hmm.
And then quite a bit in wages as well. So I'd probably say budget-wise between 200 and 300,
Hmm.
um, and like a net spend of 170 to
Yeah,
200 kind of thing, going from there. But
agreed.
me,
All right. In that case, I really like the Trafford suggestion. I mean, I really like all three suggestions. I would love all three goalkeepers to see come in this summer because I do think all three are quality. The reason I like Trafford is because, I mean, it's pretty much certain he's going to go in the summer because no one could have foreseen Donnarumma actually becoming available for Man City and signing on the dotted line. So he kind of became a second choice goalkeeper out of sheer bad luck. So there is definitely an opportunity for us to get him for, say, 20 million pounds indeed. So that would be a very good signing. This is a goalkeeper who absolutely ate up the championship last season with Burnley. Burnley had a record-breaking defense, and he was a very, very big part in that. So yeah, there's definitely a fantastic goalkeeper in there. But I have personally been banging Miles Villar's drum for a long time, so I would love to see him come in. And the reason for that is, for one, I think 30 to 40 million pounds is pretty achievable for him because AS Roma always need the money. It looks like they have a shot at qualifying for Champions League football, which would be massive for them, but they still would need to sell at the very least one big player. And if that could be your goalkeeper, I think as a club like Roma, you take that in a Gasperini system where a goalkeeper is probably one of the least important positions. And the second part, as to why I always would go for Miles Villar, it looks like he's not going to have an international career. He has chosen to declare for Serbia over Belgium a couple of years ago, played a couple of games for Serbia, and now has decided that he isn't playing for Serbia anymore, has already publicly announced that he will never be wearing the Serbian shirt again. And he wants to switch back to a Belgian allegiance. Now, for one, there is the question if he's even allowed to then play for the Belgian national team, because there isn't necessarily a set rule as to how many games you can play for one national team before not being able to switch to a different nationality ever again. It has to do with your age when you've played those games, and then a committee comes together and decides for you. So it's a very elongated process. But even if he can and is allowed to play for Belgium afterwards, Belgium have young goalkeepers like Mike Penders, who is coming through at Strasbourg, Senne Lammens at Manchester United, Martin van de Voort at Leipzig. So the young goalkeepers are coming out of Belgium's nose. So it's a very big possibility that this guy is never going to play for his country, which, if you're thinking about injuries, is a very big positive, probably. So I would
yeah.
definitely go Sviller.
Yeah, to be fair, any one of the three. But you know what? Between the two, I think Villa's probably the most agreed of the two, with Trafford being the other one.
I would
I
be
would,
really happy with Trafford coming in as well. Absolutely.
yeah. So I feel like either Trafford or Villa, but one of the two would be great.
Hmm.
E Even any of them is an upgrade on what we've currently got. So
Absolutely.
would be
Absolutely.
a great bonus.
All right. Then moving over to right back. The two right backs we've got in our squad when we're talking about natural right backs, we have to talk about Trippier and Livramento. Also, probably Emil Kraft, but I do think his contract is running out and he's probably not going to be signing a new deal. So I've put him in the leave column. And
Yeah,
then
same.
there is Louis Miley, who can also fill in that right back role. Who are you letting go? Who are you keeping?
So from this position in particular, I think Trippier's contract runs out at the end of the season. Kraft's the same. So both of them for me is away.
Hmm.
But right back's a very complicated one in a way, because there is potential Tino could go to Manchester City. And I feel like if we get the right price for him, between 60 to 80 million, I think the club will let him go. So
Do
I've
you think they
made
should?
That's a great question. I feel like with his injury status and stuff like that, like there is an opportunity for Newcastle to get money out of it, but at the same time, Tino's is a really good footballer, so
Hmm.
he'd be difficult to replace. And I feel like if we sold him, it'd be a lot of the Isak situation last year, where every other right back in Europe becomes inflated for us.
Hmm.
So it would be a bit of a difficult one. Preferably I'd keep Tino, but with his injury, you'd probably want someone just as good as him to sign alongside. So if there's an injury of any kind, which with Tino there is, sadly, then you've got someone there.
Hmm.
Because I think although Lewis Miley can do a great job at right back and he's proven to do so, I would prefer him further up the field because I feel like he's a creative presence and someone who can pick a really good pass and be the eye of the needle kind of
Hmm.
playmaker we need in midfield. Something that we're crying out for. So I'd prefer him further forward. If you have an injury crisis like we have known to have, then Miley can probably fill in at right back and be like a third choice. But yeah, for me, I think it's a case of when this is a position for me that is really important this season, and we've got to ensure we'll get this right.
Hmm. And getting this right, I mean, I do hear you say Livramento, in your estimation, probably leaving.
Yeah, I think Man City
Hmm.
that rumor hasn't went away,
No, it hasn't.
um, and with with the halting of contract negotiations between Livramento and Newcastle, I feel like
Hmm.
that's one that he would prefer as well. And I think it's a great chance for him to go and play for an elite team like that, and it'd be a good opportunity for us to make
Hmm.
a good profit on Livramento as well. So there is a it is a pro if we don't make Europe, I think that's one to watch for the summer for sure.
Yeah.
So I've made lists accordingly to whether I will replace Tino or not.
Okay,
Um,
great. Because I do want to hear a potential Tino replacement from you, because I've actually taken into account him staying. I think his injury record will mean that Man City won't want to pay what we want for him, because as you said, we are going to want upwards of 60 million pounds for him. And I think I struggle to see any fullback being worth that amount of money. With Tino Livramento, there's obviously the added value of him coming through Chelsea Academy, being English, being homegrown, being in a very difficult position to scout, and having proven himself in the Premier League. But that injury record is really worrying. The one thing that worries me most with Livramento is there is a growing trend in football, which is only going to grow exponentially over the next few, probably over the next 2 seasons, and that is players running down their deal. I
yeah.
think Livramento might do the same with us, unfortunately, which is a very, very uh, annoying thing when you miss out on 60 million pounds. At the same time, if missing out on that 60 million pounds means 2 more seasons of Livramento and 2 seasons in which we can potentially scout for his replacement and make a more calculated and thought out decision, then that could be a positive in the long term, but you probably still kind of want the money. So if Man City do pay up with that money, I'm already going to give you my suggestion, by the way. I did suggest a backup right back. My suggestion is signing Zeki Celik on a free from AS Roma. This is a football stats or football nerd kind of player, because ever since his time at Lille, he's popping off in especially defensive stats, which is something I think we lack in this squad, a real out and out defensive fullback. All of our fullbacks have attack on the mind at first glance, which is a positive in my opinion. I want attacking fullbacks, but when we are under the cosh, I think having someone like Zeki Celik, who is still only 28 years old, would be brilliant. He has, again, fantastic defensive output, and on a free transfer, there's little to no risk involved with that. Can play right back, can play right wing back, so there's also some system diversity in there. But who would you suggest if we were to sell Livramento?
So if we sold Tino Livramento, I think there's two options here, and they're both quite young. One with Premier League experience, one without. The first one with Premier League experience is probably Coyote at Brentford. I
Hmm.
really like the look of this lad. I feel like he gives. We've been testing the long throws this season. I feel that he brings that to his game. He's very he's very well rounded. He's capable of creating chances. He's capable of defending really well. And I feel like in terms of outright profile, he's very similar to Livramento, apart from he has like ridiculous throwing attributes. Um, so yeah, I think that would be a like for like. Although Brentford are hard sellers, as we know with the Visa deal last season, and that one bit were quite hard. So yeah, it's a PTSD thing from Brentford. Don't get burnt too hard with that one. But I
But I
think
do love
Kai
that
would,
suggestion. Yeah.
yeah, Kai would be a really good one. The other one is a bit more left field at AS Monaco with Vanderson,
Yeah.
someone who can play both sides of the defensive side, left back and right back. And I feel like with the way our team has been, Vanderson will probably be one I'll go for even if we kept Tino, because I feel like he can play both sides. He's very capable, and Lewis Hall has a bit of a weird injury record as well,
Mhm.
so I feel like Vanderson would play a lot of games there. Um, so yeah, I feel like that would be a good one. He's a young player developing, getting better, good going forward. It is quite a step up from the French league, but he has been really good for Roma in the
Mhm.
Champions League. So sorry, he's been really good for
Monaco.
Monaco
Yeah. Yeah.
in the Champions League. So I feel like although he would need a little bit of coaching, I feel like there is a really good player there that you can
Mhm.
that you can get the best out of and really take one forward. So they would be my two.
Absolutely. I honestly, I want to go with Vanderson because I do really like him as well. I think you'd be able to get him for 25 million pounds, maybe 30. As you said, Champions League experience and the Liga, yeah, as a competition as a whole, it is a bit of a dodgy one. But when it comes to recruiting from the Liga, Premier League has shown that Liga is probably the number one competition when it comes to recruitment, uh, or especially when it comes to players translating what they did in the Liga to the Premier League. The Liga NOS
Yeah,
is also a breeding ground for Premier League talent, but we've seen Bundesliga players, La Liga players, and more recently, and probably over the next few years, we're going to see a lot of Serie A players as well really struggle to adapt to the physical nature of the Premier League. For some reason, League 1 looks like they don't necessarily have that issue, which is a fantastic place to go scouting then. So Vanderson is in the club. I love that suggestion. Absolutely. All right,
yeah,
I think we're
them
going
they'd be
to
my two for sure.
have to make
Sorry.
no worries. I think we're going to need to go a bit quicker through these next few positions, or otherwise we're going to be in midfield when this segment is finished. So for center back, um, I mean between our four first team center backs who make a lot of minutes, is there anyone you'd let go this summer?
Nah, I feel like Fabian Schär's contract is up, but if we don't have European football, then I think it just makes sense to give him another year.
Hmm.
And then you've got two centre backs that can play right centre back, and then obviously with Burn and Botman, um, they become your two left-sided centre backs. But for me, I'm happy with them four being kind of the
Hmm.
four centre backs, especially if we
Completely agreed.
don't have European football. If you do have European football, then maybe add a young centre back who could probably challenge. Once Fabian Schär leaves at the end of his deal, in theory, in 18 months, and probably Dan Burns probably on his last season.
Hmm.
Um, Before you look at potentially selling him, it's late next season as well. So yeah, but I think there's got to be a power shift in Chow and Botman being your number one centre backs. It can't be Dan Burn slash Botman. It's got to be Botman and Chow going forward. Got to be.
I think so too. I did take into account some sort of European football for us, because I do agree if we miss out on Europe altogether, it makes no sense signing another center back because that's just going to mean one of the five probably doesn't play any minutes at all in the season, and that's just a waste of money at that point. If we do get Europe, I would go big for Jared Branthwaite. The thing with Jared Branthwaite is Everton is a club which is looking to move upwards as well in the league table, and especially with the new financial rules, that's going to mean selling a big asset. Jared Branthwaite has just come off a really long injury, but that was a contact injury, so I don't necessarily think he's going to struggle all that much in. I mean, you never know, but I hope he's not going to struggle with that injury for a lot longer. But I think getting him in this summer for, say, £50 million could mean we go in front of teams like Man City, Liverpool, Man United, who I think will all be in for him in 12 months' time. He is a brilliant center back. Before his injury, he was everything that's talked about. Basically, what I see in him is what we try to do with Mark Gahey. Get there before the big sides, get a fantastically dominant center back in. And I think, at least physically, he's the closest to Dan Burn in this league. And if he's not playing 3 games a week, I still think Dan Burn is probably my first choice to play next to Malik Thiaw at this moment in time, just because of the balance between those two. So that's why Jared Brandthwaite is my suggestion. I don't know if you have any other suggestions if we did manage to get Europe.
I mean, in terms of depending on West Ham going down, you could go for a previous target that I know the club liked, which was Max Kilman. But I mean, centre back wasn't the top of my radar. Like the thinking was, the older centre backs now become the second choice, and then go from there really.
Yeah.
So, in the list of priorities, centre back wasn't top of it.
Agreed. All right. Let's move to left back then. I would also leave that for last. If the opportunity presents itself, fine, sign a center back, but there are definitely a lot more important positions for us to cover. Like, for example, a potential backup for Lewis Hall, because I mean, I do imagine you're not selling the best left back in the league.
No, I'm not. If anything, I'm trying to get him a new contract to keep him here for as long as possible.
Absolutely.
And hope that with him being a fan, he's like, yeah, I'll stay here for my life, mate. That's fine. Um, but yeah, I think in terms of what I've got for left backs here, it's based on opportunity because I feel like looking at the Premier League table, one of West Ham or Nottingham Forest are going to go down, and I
Yep.
feel like the opportunity is there at fullback for both of these teams. So if West Ham went down, you've got two options. You could go for Malik Diouf, who signed from Slavia Prague, who looks an
Really
up and coming
exciting.
talent.
Yeah.
And then you've got Kyle Walker-Peters if you want a more experienced head as well and can play both sides of the fullback position if you need him to. And then if Nottingham Forest go down, they have Neco Williams who I really like.
Yep.
So regardless of which one of them goes down, there's an opportunity there for Newcastle to really bolster that part of the field. Because one thing's for sure, that is a part of the field that needs bolstered because Lewis Hall does have some injury problems, so having that filled is a big thing, and that's another like going back to part one a little bit, like loaning out Matt Target or not recalling Matt Target when we needed a left back. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's crazy, but um yeah. So for me, bolstering left back to really help Lewis Hall going forward would be a good one.
Yep.
And I think if one of those teams goes down, you're going to be looking at cut price value, and you're going to be looking at a good player there. So yeah,
Absolutely. I think either way, whatever team goes down, there's going to be a lot of quality that's being relegated to the championship. So it would definitely be a good idea to have a look through that squad. The left back I suggested is a bit more of a left field one, but it is maybe one of my favorite suggestions in this team. It's a free transfer, so that's always a very exciting thing for the board. It's Soufiane El Karouani. Now, El Karouani is the left back for FC Utrecht in the Eredivisie in Holland. So he did play Europa League as well. And if he wasn't a free agent, I think he would absolutely, definitely 100% be the record sale for FC Utrecht. He's brilliant. He's 25 years old. I think he has 16 assists in all competitions from left back this season. 16 assists. He is very, very attacking, but he has a fantastic engine on him, so he can get back in time. I think we've seen Lewis Hall push further and further up the pitch himself, so that would be a like for like. He's 25, so Lewis Hall would have a bit of an older understudy, which is also a positive in my opinion, because I don't like when two players in the same position are competing for the same position and are the same age, because usually I think that doesn't end well. So yeah, I
yeah,
would love El Karouani on a free transfer. He is absolutely brilliant. And he was linked
yeah.
with a move to Russia in the summer, but to I think it's what's the team with the pink badge from Moscow? Yeah, does the Spartak Moscow? That's the one.
Yeah, there you
So
go.
he was linked with that team, but that's only because that team have the possibility to still spend quite big sums of money on players who haven't necessarily made that big step. He's decided to stay to wait for a nice and yeah, exciting new step. And I saw Marseille even being linked with him briefly in January, so that's a pretty great sign of quality as well. I would love him.
Yeah, it is a left field signing, but I think I'm not going to lie, it's not someone I've particularly heard of, but I know your understanding of the European market is really strong, so I trust you on that one. Another one probably for me would probably Leif Davis at Ipswich.
Absolutely.
Um, Attacking fullback had a good number of assists in the Championship a couple of seasons ago and was really highly touted. He's a Newcastle fan as well, so I think
Mhm.
there's a good chance there for sign someone who would love to come to Newcastle. And I think he'd be well liked by fans as well because he's one that leaves it all out on the field and
Agreed.
he's a good player in that aspect. So, but
Yep.
it's more risk than the 20 odd than the free transfer that
Mhm.
you've suggested. So yeah, it's one of them for me where like if there's an opportunity, take it, but there might not be.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the midfield. I have worked with the number 10, so I'm going to exclude that from this conversation for now. The midfielders I wanted to talk about, first of all, the midfielders who we might look to keep or sell. Bruno, I mean, let's not even disrespect him by going over whether or not that's a keep or sell.
Yeah.
Sandro Tonali, Joe Linton, Louis Miley, Jacob Ramsey, Joe Willock. Those are the most important names. Is there anybody in there who you've put into the sale column?
Yeah, I've got Willock to go. I
Okay.
think there's 12 months on his deal.
Mm,
Um and I think he did want to go to Fulham in January. I feel like that was something he really wanted to do. Don't get us wrong, he's had a couple of decent performances this season. He was brilliant against
mhm,
Paris Saint-Germain. And there is a capable player there, but I feel like the one thing about being a club at the top end of the league, especially with PSR/SAR coming in, you've got to sell players at the right time, and I feel like Willock is there. There could even be arguments made for Joe Linton as well, especially if they
mhm,
want to transition to a more possession-based type of team, where Joe Linton probably wouldn't fit into that. He's more of a kind of a destroyer, kind of break up play type of player. But Joe Linton I would keep for 12 more months before you start considering that. But I think the right time for me is Joe Willock, and then you replace Joe Willock with someone with a bit of a different profile, someone with a bit of flair, that has um, the creative quality to unpick teams, especially teams that are playing in a low block. Someone who's going to make them runs in between defence and midfield and cause problems
mhm.
that way. Because I feel like we really struggle with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head there, especially with the fact that we have to become better at selling at the best time. And for Willock, this is probably the best time. He's had a pretty good season, a better season than any of us probably expected he could have, which means his value has gone up more than we could have wished it had for next summer. So yeah, perfect time to sell. I think Fulham would be brilliant for him, reuniting with a lot of the Arsenal Academy players like Iwobi and Emil Smith Rowe who are there. Fulham usually do this, paying money for not failed but academy products of the very big clubs in England that haven't made it in their respective team. So yeah, Willock, I would definitely rate that transfer to Fulham. I've also put Tonali in the sell column. Now the reason I've put him there is I think he's gonna want to go, and the second he wants to go, I think you sell him for as much as possible because yes, he's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant player, but I do think he's very, very similar to Bruno Guimaraes. So if we were to say get 80 million pounds for him and sign two 40 million pound midfielders who are completely different profiles from him and Bruno, I think as a team we would improve. So that's why I've put him in the sell category, but it's not a player I would be looking to sell like Joe Willock. It's more so a
Yeah,
player I'd be looking to listen to offers for.
yeah, yeah. That's fair enough because Tonali is probably like if we fail to make Europe, which looks likely, barring a miracle, um, then Tonali
Mhm.
probably might be looking at the next stage of his career. Like he was very highly linked to Arsenal on deadline day, and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, that might be one, a bit like Tino, where we don't want him to go, but that might be the case.
Hmm. I think so too. Is there any midfielder in that area which you've decided or look to bring in?
Yeah, so
Okay.
if Tonali goes, the one that comes straight to my head is Adam Wharton to
Yep.
replace him.
Love it.
He's such a complete midfielder and one that I'm surprised the big teams on after already.
Hmm.
I didn't factor that in when I planned my transfers here, but that would be a go-to for me.
Okay.
For me, creative midfielders I've got here is Keys Schmidt in Holland.
He's my
El
suggestion.
yeah, El Canus in from Leicester, who's currently on loan at Stuttgart, and
Hmm.
then Matthias Mane as well, who's playing at Wolves and is doing really well in a poor side. So there's them three. I think Keith Smith might be difficult to do without European football.
Probably.
So my main target will be El Canus, because he's capable. He's
Mhm.
still a young player, got the attributes, and you can build a team around him going forward. So that would be my main one to go for. But there, if you do get Europe, then you might be able to ask Keith Smith. But I think he's going to Real
Mhm.
Madrid or something. Like
I
I think
mean,
we
I
something of Champions League
yeah,
to.
yeah, I don't disagree with that. On K Smith, he is my suggestion because I do think he fits what we are looking for down to a T. Um, I mean, let's get my Belgian head on for a second. I'm gonna talk to Case, just in case he finds this somewhere. Maybe we can clip this up and put this on our TikTok as well. Case, makker. Newcastle is de club voor u, vriend. Newcastle is de club. Kom af. Kom voetballen hier. 2, 3 jaar. Dan Real Madrid. Geloof mij. Ah, 53.000 fans die allemaal uw naam zingen. Allemaal wachten op een midfielder met uw profiel. Een creatieve middenvelder. Join the Geordies, bro. So yeah, that's why. I mean, that's not why. That is me begging for K. Smith's signature for Newcastle. But he would be so brilliant. He is so brilliant. If you have the time later today, just go and watch some highlights of him because it doesn't take you long to notice what a special footballer he is going to be because he has the Xavi and Iniesta thing where if he's not in possession, his head is on a swivel. He's constantly looking over his shoulder, looking everywhere, scanning all around the pitch, and then he gets the ball, and within second, first touch pass through the lines, and there's the player gone. It's unbelievable how fast he makes his decisions, how well he reads the game. I love K. Smith, so he's absolutely my creative midfield suggestion. Having said that, though, El Canus, love him, absolutely love him. Mateus Mane, I think he's more of a shadow striker, so I think he resembles Woltemade a bit too much for my liking. But with an 18-year-old talent like him, if you could get him in, you probably just do it, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, don't get us wrong. I think the preferred one between the two was Keith Smith, but it's gonna be hard.
I mean,
I
if he's not
mean,
convinced by now, he'll never be, right?
exactly that. I mean, that you spoke the native tongue and everything, so like it's got to work. If that doesn't, then he just doesn't see the vision.
Exactly that. All right, and now for the last 5 minutes of this podcast, I suggest we move on to the front line because there is one question before we're obviously going to be talking about a striker, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So the one question I did want to ask before talking about that striker, Anthony Gordon, stay or go.
I think he'll go. I think there's two. I think between Liverpool and Arsenal, that's where he's headed.
Mhm.
Um, and
And do
that's
we sign
fine.
a winger then?
Absolutely got to.
Hmm.
Barnes being your second choice on one side, Alanga being second choice on the other, and then you're looking at two basically,
Yep.
potentially. So,
All
so
right.
yeah, I
I
think
suggest you just give me your names, your suggestion, both for winger and for striker. I'll give you mine, and then we can discuss for a little bit because we are
my
running out of
two
time.
Yeah, my two wingers I was going to go for is Kubo from Real Sociedad,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one being a lad we played against yesterday in Dyer at Everton.
Oh
Really
yeah,
good
yeah.
player with a bit of flair, someone that can create and cause a lot of problems for the opposition. So they would
Mm-hmm.
be my two wingers. Striker, I'm trying to go for someone who's going to be a pressing striker within the team, which is why I've went for Darwin Núñez, who probably wants to come
Hmm.
back to England. Someone who's going to press from the front and work hard.
Uh-huh.
Although there is better strikers out there, I feel, but like I feel just in terms of being able to fit a system, he would be good for that. And the other one being quite in a similar mold, being Nicholas Jackson, being able to get
Okay.
players who are good at getting the best out of players
Yeah.
around them in that aspect. So that would be mine.
I must admit, I love those suggestions. I think Iliman Ndiaye and Kubo could work really well as a partnership as well, because I think Ndiaye is one of those players that can make something happen out of nothing, especially when we are playing one of those D blocks, which we've been playing a lot this season. He would be brilliant. Kubo is one of those very rare players who both contribute on the assists and on the goal end, but still not necessarily a big team has taken a risk on him. So there's a very big
Yeah.
opportunity to get him there. And on striker, I love the Darwin Núñez shout. I didn't even consider him, but yes, he wants to leave Saudi because he's been left out of the league squad because I think they've got too many foreign players in their squad. But he scored twice in the cup and was giving was giving it the big one to the owners. So he would absolutely be open to go. 6'6", tons of energy. 6'6" is too tall, right? Wait, that can't be right. Double checking real quick. He's 188 centimeters. That's not 60. That's 6'2" or 6'3", I think. Anyway, still a very tall lad. Unbelievably energetic. I think I prefer that shout over my striker. I mean, I'm sure I prefer that over my striker. I was suggesting Panicelli at Strasbourg, young Argentinian striker, but he's much more of a risk than Darwin is. I think Darwin and in our system could be brilliant. And my winger suggestion is only one winger who I think we need to spank near on £100 million on if Anthony Gordon was to go, because he is an absolute superstar. I'm talking Jan Diomande at Leipzig. We are probably looking here at this is his first year in Germany, the single best dribbler in Europe apart from Lamine Yamal at this moment in time. He's unbelievable and he gets tons of shots. He creates tons of opportunities for his opponents. He's an Ivory Coast international already, only 19 years old. The only problem is Bayern are already looking at him, so it might be difficult to get him, but he would be my dream signing. If we weren't able to get him, I'd go for the combination NDI Kubo, like you said.
Yeah,
All right,
love that.
I think that's a fantastic place to leave it for this episode. This would be an absolutely brilliant summer by Newcastle United. So, anyways, that was it for today. Me and Kyle would really like to thank you guys at home for listening. If you listen to this on Spotify, please give us 5-star ratings and leave a comment. If you listen to this on YouTube, please leave a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and head over to Magpie 24/7 on all other